It is I, King Cali, yet again claiming the Holy Grail. This time, taking the South American World Championship. And while Cali the Dawn, as well as Theater Cali and others, scramble to get their forces together, I shall send a first assault by giving you the information that you need to crush them inevitably. Soon, Outlet and all variants will rule the world, and the chalice will stay mine! What's that? Exo Sister, feet pics? You should have told a king then. Bring us into the throne room. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day is going phenomenal, but if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Speaking of such, I am subject to King Cali's rules, so I'm going to be doing exactly what he told me to do. Today, I'm going to be giving you a hand trap guide on how to beat every single one of the most popular decks inside of the meta, excluding Outlich. We'll try to include Outlich here. Just don't let him hear it. With so many huge events and championship series revving up, I want you to be prepared, whether it is going at those high-level events or just beating your friend across the table. And this guide is going to be using some of the most popular hand traps and telling you where you should be using them against a particular deck, and also if the hand trap is actually good against a particular strategy. And of course, as with any series, if of course you want to see more guides like this, then be sure to destroy that subscribe button and let me know down below in the comments section what are some other guides you want to see, or can be said and done to make these guides a little bit more helpful. Without further ado, I won't waste any more of your time. Let's go ahead and jump on in. So one of the hardest, and I mean the hardest things about making this guide was actually getting you the information that you can reference back on the drop of a dime. Now I could just blah and spew out the information and you could just be like, huh? Or we can actually make this a guide that you can reference back. So this is exactly how we're gonna do it. For the hand traps, I'm actually gonna be using some of the most popular hand traps from my hand trap tier list. Not only are these statistically proven to be some of the best hand traps in the format, you actually can get a detailed guide on why these hand traps are so effective in the format, so go ahead and check out that video if you haven't yet. And then for the strategies I'll be using, I'm gonna use some of the most played strategies inside of the format, and then sprinkling in a couple of other strategies where these hand traps are extremely good against. Not only will I be able to tell you if a hand trap trades good, bad, or neutral against a particular strategy, I'll also be telling you when you should be using that hand trap at the most opportune time to counteract your opponent. Now, some of you may be wondering, why exactly do I even need a guide? I just hand trap the first thing I see. Especially with hand traps like Droll and Logbird that are extremely self-explanatory. This is why you actually need a guide. Droll and Logbird does seem self-explanatory. You just Droll and Lock the moment that your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, right? Well, that's not always the correct move. The reason why I say this is because players are playing supplementary strategies inside of their deck, like the Adventure Token engine. This gives them an opportunity to be Droll and Logbird way before they start with the regular engine, because the Adventure Token engine does search a lot. To counteract that, players have been playing a very powerful hand trap in Pysframegear Gamma. And this gives you the question, should you really Droll and Logbird the moment you can? The reason why I say this is because players will use Water Enchantress of the Temple without having a monster on the field, and if you Droll and Lock them while they have a Pysframegear Gamma, that can completely cost you the game. If you know your opponent is on Pysframegear Gamma, or if they're playing a very combo-like deck, waiting until they actually use their Fateful Adventure to search, whether it's for the Wandering Griffin Rider or the Draco back, typically like to get greedy and search the Draco back first, then you Droll and Logbird. Now you can't be Gammaed and you still lock them out of their play. See, and just like that, I saved you a game that can potentially win you the entire shebang tournament or give you bragging rights over your friends. Why wouldn't you listen to this guide? Now let's go ahead and jump on in and talk about one of the most polarizing hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring will hopefully have an accessible reprint, because that comment ain't doing Novo. Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring is actually amazing because of its usability against almost every single matchup in Yu-Gi-Oh! Seriously, This card is usable against like 99% of the strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's ridiculous. With that being said, Ash Blossom trades neutral against Sword Soul, great against Despia, neutral against Floowandereeze, neutral against Therion, neutral against Dragon Link, pretty much neutral against every strategy in Yu-Gi-Oh! And while Ash Blossom is considered one of the best hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh!, it trades neutral against these strategies because it doesn't necessarily get rid of the threat, where some other hand traps have a bigger impact of actually getting rid of the problem. Now, going against the Despia strategy, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring is actually amazing because the card that you want to be hitting with this card is Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion allows players to be able to fuse from the deck so Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring can negate the effect of the card, and seeing that Ash Blossom doesn't negate the activation, it can still be used when your opponent has Branded Loss. Keep this in mind, as this is singly Ash Blossom's sole job. Only use it on Branded Fusion, as it is their most powerful card. Against Sword Soul, I know I said Ash trades neutral, but it actually kind of trades closer towards the negative, as the Sword Soul monsters really can't be hit with Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. You're going to be using this card to be able to stop your opponent's Sword Soul Emergence, or being able to stop your opponent's Vessel of the Dragon Cycle, or of course Heavenly Dragon Cycle. It's actually pretty good against Heavenly Dragon Cycle, as they'll lose their monster and not get their Searcher summon. Other than that, using Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring on the first Pot of Desires you see is always muy bueno. It actually doesn't matter against the deck. If your opponent Pot of Desires, you're like obligated to use Ash Blossom. It's just so free. You don't want your opponent getting more resources and the ability to out the Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Using Ash on Desires is a fair trade, unless they play Gamma and didn't banish the driver, but sometimes you gotta take those risks. In the Floowandereeze matchup, a lot of players like to use Ash Blossom on Floowandereeze Robina. I actually think that it's a safer route to hit this on Floowandereeze Eaglin. Now, the reason why is because your opponent is way more likely to have follow-up with Floowandereeze Eaglin searching a level 7 or higher winged beast monster than to use Robina, which sometimes they don't even need to search a Floowandereeze card. They're just using that as bait. I say this because I hate Floowandereeze and I know exactly how to hunt them down. Against the Punk Therion strategy, unfortunately, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring won't be able to hit Chaotic Roll and a Chaotic Magical Dragon a lot of times because it'll be Chain Link 1, whereas their No Punk Dear Notes effect will be Chain Link 2. I suggest using Ash Blossom on their Xiamin or their No Punk Foxy Tune, as those cards are going to be one of the more important cards to get them into their combo. Against Rocket Dragon Link, just Ash Blossom the Chaotic Roll and a Chaotic Magical Dragon. It's simple here. Now, you didn't hear this from me, but against the Outlet strategy, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring is actually good. Not only do Outlet players tend to play another supplemental engine like Branded Fusion, but using this on the Elixir Sanguine is actually a great idea, but you did not hear this from me. The next hand traps I want to talk to you about are actually a pair of hand traps, because in so many situations, they're pretty much the exact same thing. Both Effect Veiler and Infinite Impermanence are fairly played cards inside of this format, and I think they have middling results. The reason why is because unlike Ash Blossom, sometimes these cards can be really good. Not only do they stop the effect that you want to stop, they also stop additional effects, which has an advantage over Ash Blossom. Sometimes these can be really bad, because one can only be activated during your opponent's main phase, and the other one can only be activated from your hand while you control no cards. Now, both Effect Veiler and Infinite Impermanence trade pretty well against Sword Soul, neutral against Despia, bad against Floowandereeze, neutral against Therion, neutral against Dragon Link, and bad against Eldritch. One thing I do want to point out is that in the vacuum, these cards are amazing. When you're in the late game or in the grind game, they are phenomenal. But normally in the opening stages of the game, when your opponent has an abundance of resources and plenty of counter cards to go with it, chill out on both of them cards. All right. Against Sword Soul, I cannot reiterate this. Stop using Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler on cards like Moye and Taye. The reason why I say this, especially when your opponent is on an abundance of resources, using a card like that on that particular monster will only trigger a Heavenly Dragon Cycle. Meaning that not only did you waste your hand trap, they'll be able to search a Tingy Spirit Shithana, you know, my baby mama Shithana. Hey, Shithana, stop playing with your boy. You know I'm trying to come over. Them kids. Man, them kids. They'll not only be able to dodge your hand trap, but synchro summon into the monster that they want to. The best time to use Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler is when your opponent synchro summons into Sword Soul Shishao. Being able to negate its effect to search is still crucial against the Sword Soul strategy, as oftentimes it will be able to search their Extender in Long Yuan or Disruption card in Sword Soul Blackout. Against Despia players, smart players have been using Branded Opening in their draw phase to be able to special summon Aluber, not only to dodge Droll and Lockbird, but also to dodge Effect Veiler. If you got Infinite Impermanence, shoot it on that Aluber in the draw phase and you'll thank me later, because you'll also be able to dodge Triple Tactics Talent. Ironically, where this card is most impactful is against Aluber, Jester of Despia, so use both of these hand traps immediately on the Aluber, and the reason why we don't wait in this particular situation is because players have been playing Branded Lost, which allows you to dodge both Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler, being able to negate the Aluber, which could potentially get the Branded Fusion or the Branded Lost. To protect their Branded Fusion is best. Against Fluunderreese, Effect Veiler trades especially bad because not only does Dimensional Shifter prevent Effect Veiler from being able to activate, there's also Book of Moon and Fluunderreese Advent of the Adventure that completely dodge the effects of Effect Veiler. So using this card against them is just not good, but if you can get the effect off in the vacuum, still hitting the Fluunderreese Eaglin is your best bet. With Infinite Impermanence, I'd actually hold on to Infinite Impermanence until my next turn. Reason why is because you can just straight up use Infinite Impermanence on the Barrier Statue of Stormwinds if that is a problem for you, or just using it on the Fluunderreese Impen. And you don't have to worry about the Advent of the Adventurer or Book of Moon stopping you in that particular situation. Against Therion, it's so self-explanatory. Hit the Chaotic Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. Not only have Therion builds have been optimized to be able to get their engine going off of this Chaotic Ruler, they also get so much advantage being able to add a Light and Dark, and you won't believe it, against Rocket Dragon Link do the exact same thing. Against Outlich, how do you want to cry? There typically isn't a time you'll be able to get these effects off, but one thing I will tell you is watch where your opponent is setting their Outlich spell and trap cards. Reason why is because if you set Infinite Impermanence in that column and you're able to negate an opponent's monster, you can cheekily be able to negate the card in the said column as well, so I guess there's that. The next hand trap we are going to cover is one of the best hand traps in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. Pysframegear Gamma has the versatility to trade actually great against all of the strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh, for the exception of Outlich, but the problem is you can't control monsters on your side of the field, so it's like, My best advice for incorporating Pysframegear Gamma is if you are playing the Adventure Token engine, you strongly consider that, as Droll and Lockbird is a great card against you, or if you're playing a strategy that commits to a lot of searching without committing monsters on the field, think of decks like Dino. Amazing, Pysframegear Gamma is an automatic must. Now again, just to go over the formality, Pysframegear Gamma trades great against Sword Soul, it trades great against Despia, Fluunderreese, Therion, and Dragon Link. It trades bad against Outlich. Against a Sword Soul matchup, it's actually safe to use Pysframegear Gamma against Sword Soul, Moye, and Taiye, mainly because it doesn't matter what they're doing, that card's activation is still getting negated, and the monster is getting off the field. Against Despia, it's pretty simple. Use this card against Aluber, Jester of Despia. Bonus points because Gamma can be used in the draw phase and standby phase as well as the main phase. Also, if you do catch your opponent slacking on a Mac, and using this card against Abliptum is, oh boy, it's saucy. Against the Therion strategy, this is actually a little bit weird, but using Pysframegear Gamma against No Punk Z-Almond is actually godsend, mainly because not only does it get rid of the Z-Almond, which is a tuner monster, in case they wanted to go into a Hockley Fireworks play, Z-Almond says you can only use this effect once per turn, so even if they were to summon another copy during that turn, they wouldn't be able to use this effect to search. Against the Rocket Dragon Link strategy, of course you want to use this against Chaotic Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. Unlike the Therion strategy, they normally can't chain block the summon of Chaotic Ruler with another card, meaning you can negate the activation and destroy it. And against Outlich, you can curl up in a ball and cry. I guess using it against Outlich the Golden Lord isn't bad, but it's like, I mean, it could come up. That's not hopium, it's hopium. And the last card I am going to cover on this hand trap guide is DD Crow. Now DD Crow actually only becomes way more powerful when Power of the Elements comes out, and I can't wait to give you a hand trap guide as well as a meta counter guide when the new tier elements and the Splight strategy come out. But DD Crow is amazing at being able to banish cards from your opponent's graveyard, and bonus points, this card can be activated in multiple copies as it doesn't have a restriction clause. When we look about how DD Crow trades, it trades bad against Sword Soul, great against Despia, bad against Fluendereese, neutral against Therion, neutral against Rocket Dragon Link, and great against Eldritch. Against the Sword Soul matchup, this is a complete Hail Mary prayer, as I've seen this happen way too many times. Of course, you want to use DD Crow on your opponent's Tingy Spirit Ashuna or Tingy Spirit Vashuda. That seems like a logical thing, right? As you're going to stop their effects. Don't always happen. Not only is there Vessel of the Dragon Cycle, Tingy Spirit Otara can go ahead and get them back from the banish pile to the hand, and this is why DD Crow trades really bad, but those are pretty much the only times you can use DD Crow. Against Despia, this card trades amazing. Just use DD Crow when they activate Branded Opening, targeting whatever card that they're targeting with their Branded Opening, and watch them not be able to fusion summon. Yes, yes, no fusion summoning. Gosh, Callie, I don't know what's gotten into you. It's almost like you don't like Despia anymore. Those fools, they don't even know. It's me, intellectual Callie, and soon we'll take down Despia. And the other strategies, because Punk Therion's the best. Against Fluendereese, this card trades completely terrible as they want their cards banished. Against Punk Therion, of course, you're going to want to hit the Chaotic Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, but only after they've used its effect to be able to banish a Dark and Light monster from the graveyard. With Rocket Dragon Link, you won't believe it. Hit the Chaotic Ruler. Duh. And against Eldritch, just use it against Eldritch the Golden Lord, because yes, they'll be able to cycle against their traps, but it'll be a shame if, like, they lost all of their Eldritch to Golden Lords. What did you say about Eldritch, peasant Callie? Nothing, Overseer King Callie. Eldritch is the best deck. Definitely. And that is all that I have for our very first hand trap guide. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and check out these other videos as they are amazing content. And of course, if you want to see Master Duel content, you can check out Master Duel Callie. I hope you're having an amazing day, as I'll catch you on the next one.